Welcome to Everyone's a Critic. I'm Antuan Goodwin, and this is
Emme Hall.
And this is the show where we take a look at the best comments on our content and highlight them here. And we're going to start off. Today we're in the 2020 Audi E-Tron.
E-Tron, yes, Audi's new all-electric SUV.
All right, and depending on who you ask, this is either the first or the second or third electric car that Audi's ever built, but it's the first that they've ever built with any sort of large production.
Yes, exactly.
And since we're talking about comments, let's start with Audi's comments themselves. Electric goes Audi.
Ooh.
Built for everyday use, the fully electric Audi e-tron is the right size and the right segment with the right tech and the right ecosystem to go electric today. One of the big tricks with this vehicle, we'll get to this when we get into the comments, but one of the big tricks of this vehicle is its ability to cram a bunch of energy in real fast if you're at the right station.
Right, if you're at the right station, for sure, but how many people... you're right. Okay, let's get to the comments.
Let's get to the comments. Nobody cares what we think. We want to hear what you guys think. There's an issue with the e-tron where the charger gets stuck, and this is Jermaine... what is it? Jermaine Crute says... charger got stuck in the damn Audi SUV that I just paid $54 to charge. Nah, I'm good. I'll just get a Model 3 or a Lexus ES 350 hybrid.
Yeah.
Tell us about your experience.
So this was plugged in at Roadshow HQ yesterday. And ironically, we do not have any kind of a level 2 charger. So it's plugged into just a regular household outlet. So I get to the car and I unlock it and I go to the port and I press the little lever on the top and it's stuck. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I gotta unplug it from the wall first. So I unplug it from the wall and it's still stuck. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And so I'm like kind of pressing buttons around the port to see if there's something there that I'm missing, and I can't get anything to work. So I text, because Tim is on vacation, so I didn't want to like text him to be like, hey, what did you do with the thing? So I called you and I'm like, isn't there some kind of emergency port? And there is. You have to open the hood, and then over here, like on the side panel, there's two little like rings. One is red, I'm not sure what that one is for, and one is yellow, and you like pull on the yellow little yellow tab and it's an emergency release for the port. So, and apparently Tim like lost that. It like went down into the nether regions of the engine, and he had to, I don't know, all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, I had to use the emergency thing.
I honestly didn't believe it would happen to you.
Yeah.
Because, it happens, and, it happened to Tim, and I thought, it's definitely a known issue, but there's no way it's going to strike twice.
Yes, it did. And I mean, you should just be able to press the little lever on the top of the port and pull it out, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you should be able to do. Yeah.
And I believe I believe that this is probably something they could fix with software. I don't believe it's a hardware issue.
Right.
But the fact that we've had this problem twice, but now we're talking about it in two different videos. It's a known issue. I think that's going to hurt them a lot.
And I was so excited when my landlord decided to put in a level 2 charger because he's got a Chevy Bolt. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be so great. Like, I'm no longer going to complain about how hard it is to use public charging stations and blah, 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 blah. My EV reviews are going to get so much better. And now I was just like, are you kidding me?
Well, I mean,
are you kidding me?
Let's get into this because it's interesting. We had a lot of comments that talk about the fact that it cost Tim so much to charge at the Electrify America fast charging station.
Right.
So here we got a comment from Winnie F1. What an awesome and honest review. I think Audi's onto something, but version 2.0 will be much better. But they must get 300 miles and definitely solve that charger release problem. And let's face it, $58 for each charge on a long road trip makes this a non-starter for most of us. And I think that, yes, Electrify America stations are expensive because they're chugging a lot of energy into the car really quickly. But I also don't believe, or I would like to think that I would not, if I owned this vehicle, not be at an Electrify America station every day.
No,
the goal is that you'd have a level 2 charger at home that you could like plug in every night, and you'd get a lot of your charging at level 2 charging stations that are at offices or parking lots, a lot of which are free or only cost a couple of bucks to charge up, and you'd only really use those I need to get 80% charge in an hour sort of charging stations when you're on like a long road trip or when you really need the power now. But most people don't find themselves in situations where they need 200 miles of range in an hour.
Except that there still are not level 2 charging stations at offices. I mean, we work for a tech website and we do not have a charging station in our garage.
I understand that.
In San Francisco. So, sure, the infrastructure will be there, but like when?
Well, I mean,
Antuan?
anecdotally, and I understand this is just my personal experience, and I live in San Francisco, and we have a buttload of chargers around, but everywhere I go, there are chargers, except the office. And,
and how many times have you gone to one of those public chargers and A, someone's parked in there that doesn't belong there, or B, it doesn't work for whatever reason?
Right. I understand that, and it happens. It does happen, and when it does happen, it's more annoying than at a gas station. But at the same time, the vast majority of if I have a vehicle that does 200 miles of range and I unplug at my house and I've got 200 miles of range and I go to the grocery store and there's somebody at all the chargers, so what? Like, the odds that I feel like the chargers are a nice to have. And if you're buying an electric car, you should have a way to charge it at home. And that should be the primary way that you charge the car. And everything else is a nice to have. Whenever I go to like a Tesla supercharger station and I see like a line of Model S's and Model X's just waiting to charge up there, I just think that those people are doing it wrong. Like, you bought a car, and it's just, I understand the energy's free, but it just seems like you're paying for it with your time.
Did you see that on Facebook, so you know it's true? There was a long, long line of Tesla vehicles at I want to say Kettleman City in California off I-5, but I could be wrong about that, over Thanksgiving weekend, because everyone was traveling for Thanksgiving weekend, and they had to go to a Tesla supercharger.
That is like a bad case scenario.
It's like, well,
and so there I agree with you. And I think, for a vehicle like this is like a, $70,000, $80,000 car.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hope that you'd be a 2-car household at that point, and that you'd have some sort of internal combustion engine that you could use for those long road trips, and that going electric for your second car would allow you to reduce your reliance on gasoline.
Right, you would only use that. Only use that gas car when you absolutely needed to.
Right, so you'd have this would be your drive around everyday car. And then your other car would also be your drive around everyday car, but now you're not putting gas in 2 cars a week. And when you need to go on a road trip, then you can use that for something else.
Yeah, I can get behind that. But as someone who can only afford a single car, I can't go electric until these infrastructure problems are solved. So
I feel real bad for you, son.
No, well, you can only afford one car too. So
I can't afford one car. All right, let's get back into the comments. We spent a lot of time talking about it. This one comes from Ed Maluf. Ed Maluf.
Okay.
Now, I get that charging at a charging station will be more expensive than charging at home. That's fine. It's a business and they have to make a profit. But the fact that it's a lot more expensive than gas, give me a break. No wonder these electric cars sell a fraction of what Tesla sells. The reason this vehicle sells a fraction of what Tesla sells is because they just started selling them like a week ago. This one's in reference to the charging port getting stuck. It's from Mike Lewis. He says, it's amazing because if that was a Model X, you'd be hearing about it all over the news, that the charger wouldn't release and after it's finished charging. You are hearing about it.
Yep.
We've talked about it twice. It's not that we're hiding it. We've definitely written about it. We've written about it on our site. We've covered it in video. We're covering it again here. It's a problem.
Yeah. It's just that there are fewer of these on the road at the moment. So
yeah. So we got one from 289 Pinto. I'll be honest, I picked your comment because of your name. The grill shape is exactly like a Ford. I hope we're not going to all do the same thing. I hope we are not all going to do the same thing. Hyundai, or however they spell it, is the same style. And they're talking about that hexagonal sort of grill. That is sort of a look that, in fairness, Audi pioneered. I think the first time I saw a giant hexagon grill like that, it was when Audi was doing their big mono grill, single frame grill, and that's something that they've kept throughout a couple of iterations of their design language. It is interesting now that the Ford Mustang Mach-E, I love saying that because everybody hates it. But since the Mach-E's come out, it's got a very similar grille shape.
Yeah.
And the newest generations of Hyundais also do. A lot of vehicles are having this sort of big.
But I'm just glad that there's an actual grill on this thing, because now that Tesla has gone to having just like a flat face, to me it just, I don't know, it looks a little weird.
I think the flat face works better on Tesla's design than the open face did.
Do you?
And it was because the old one used just like a big gloss panel, and so it looked weird. the fact that they don't have that grill, it looks better on the Tesla. On this, it at least sort of looks like a grill, and it does let some air through for things like battery cooling, for brake cooling, and things like that. But for the most part,
it's pretty non-functional.
It's closed off for aerodynamics.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a bad look. I actually like the look of this vehicle.
Me too.
Let's see here.
What else do we got?
Let's get back in the comments.
Do we have any funny ones?
I'm supplying all the funny today.
Oh, sorry. Like it's your job.
This one's from Scott Niob. It says, I would buy one if the range was at least double the 204 miles and charging cost was equal per mile to gas. Until then, I'll keep my SQ5.
Oh.
Ooh, yeah, keep
damn,
your SQ5
yeah,
anyway.
I do. Yeah, you keep that.
No, well, the interesting thing is that, again, you're talking about the charging cost equal to gas or not. The charging cost is already lower than gas. You just have to do it slow.
Depends on where. Yeah.
There's definitely a
premium.
balance of like if you charge it home overnight off grid. Off peak.
Right.
Your cost per mile is super cheap.
Right.
If you have solar panels at your house, if you get sort of like renewable energy discounts from your utility, even cheaper. The cost per mile is already lower, but you're just not going to get it
all the time.
10 to 30 minutes. And so that's kind of the thing. I think on some level that is annoying, but personally I feel like that level of like having the flexibility to just take your car home and go like, I don't feel like stopping at the station today. Just go home and plug it in. That is freeing to me, I think.
Yeah, and even if you go to Electrify America and every once in a while you do have to pay that exorbitant amount of money, it's like, I buy Diet Dr. Peppers at work for 25 cents a can, but then I go to the airport and I have to pay $3. And does it suck? Yeah, but in the end, that $3 with my 25 cents per can, still cheaper than buying it at the store.
I should
That was a really good analogy, wasn't it?
Emme doesn't live in the 1950s. Our office subsidizes sodas. They should be free, but
they should be free.
You didn't hear that from me. Here's an interesting one from Quiet Storm X. Looks better than any Tesla that I don't get. Looks better than any Tesla that I don't like or have an interest in. I'd wait for the camera on the outside mirrors like the rest of the world gets for this model. And that's in reference to the fact that we've got traditional wing mirrors, but in Europe or in parts of the world where it's legal, you get little screens right here and these sort of like divots in the dash in the door panels.
Have you driven that before?
No.
I have.
Have you?
Yeah, not like, I think I did it in a parking lot in Volkswagen a couple of years ago. And it's pretty interesting. It was pretty easy to train my eyes to just kind of lower just a little bit, squirrel, to just kind of lower my eyes a little bit and lower my reference right there. And then I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know how much the aerodynamic benefit is.
A lot.
Is it?
Well, a little. But it's the aerodynamic benefit is like a couple of kilometers, or which makes a couple of miles. There's definitely a little bit quieter because you don't really have to account for wind noise here. But it's a small thing, and I think with EVs, it's one of those things where it's like every mile that you can save. This one's from LD Odom. All Tesla has to do in order to maintain its majority share, I'm assuming with EVs, is to revoke no-cost supercharging, or build the cost into the purchase, or re-invoke no-cost supercharging, or build the cost into the purchase price. Preferably not as one of their $5,000 options. No-cost supercharging is not super sustainable for Tesla, I don't think.
No. Especially if they start selling like many more cars, and then suddenly they're just supplying all of the power for all of those cars for free. Like it's not scalable.
Which is why they didn't do it with the Model 3, because they want to sell a buttload of those cars. And if you want to build the infrastructure out, but on some level you also want to manage demand for that infrastructure. Going no charge for supercharging for the S and the X was a great move because it got people into those cars, but it also built the situation where people are now dependent on that, where you want them to be, with an electric car, the big benefit is decentralizing that sort of power usage. So you can have people charging at home, you can have people charging at grocery stores, you can have people charging at their office. You don't really want that sort of dependence on like these nodes
Yeah, and Tesla is a business and it's out to make money.
Yeah.
So there is a tipping point when you're providing a service like that for free to, like you said, get people into the brand.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's not going to be sustainable anymore, and they're not going to be making any money. And at the end of the day, if Tesla doesn't make any money, then they don't produce any car, and then none of those fanboys can, talk about how it's the best car they've ever driven, even though they probably haven't driven one.
This one's from Nathan H. Tesla is a far superior of a vehicle of any that I've driven/ridden in. I bought one after never having spent more than $12,000 on my daily driver. Best purchase I've ever made. My wife hates her 2019 non-Tesla vehicle now.
Well, if you've only spent $12,000 on a car, then you of course have not driven the cream of the crop. You've driven, a Hyundai from 1985.
Well, maybe he's driven nicer cars, but never bought a nicer car.
Maybe.
This is something I know a lot of people who are enthusiasts who spend a lot of time around cars, and that makes them more shrewd buyers. And so, certified pre-owned stuff is just as good as brand new stuff a lot of times.
Yep.
And so, if you can get a good deal on it, I understand on some level having not spent a bunch of money on a car, because I've never owned a car that cost more than $5,000. Here's a comment from Jimbert50. Speaking of being normal, this is in reference to the shifter. He says, push it forward to go into reverse, pull it back to go into drive. That's totally backwards from the way it should be. Come on, Audi. Have you had any issues with this shifter?
No.
It's weird because it looks like you should pull the whole thing, and I can do this while she's driving because it doesn't do anything. It's a handle, and there's only like a little thumb lever that you push forward to go into reverse and you pull back to go into drive.
Yeah, but
there's a button for park. It seemed perfectly natural to me.
It seemed really natural to me. I looked at it and I knew immediately how it was supposed to operate.
And I think it's because when you have like a lever, your Perndle, it's park, reverse, drive. Drive is always back.
Yeah.
And then when you want to go into reverse, you slap the pedal forward.
Yeah.
So you're doing a 3-point turn. You'd turn, slap forward, back, pull back, drive.
Yeah,
but it seems natural.
It doesn't bother me at all.
But it is weird. It seems like you should be able to pull the whole thing.
But it doesn't bother me.
It's interesting because that means that all of this is just a big arm
I know,
rest.
and actually, you know what I found? That I was actually just driving like this.
Don't do
with
that.
my hand on it. I know, it was really weird. But it feels good. It feels good in my
3
hand.
and 9 all the time.
3 and 9 all the time.
But no, it's we've got this sort of dual touch screen set up, and the bottom screen is largely for climate controls, but it's also what you use for writing your destinations. So if you want to go to Taco Bell, you'd write Taco Bell. Or if you wanted to go to
Del Taco is better.
Well, I mean, sure, whatever. They're all garbage. But that's where you would do your writing, and you don't want your arm bouncing around a lot, and so this makes a good palm rest for like writing while you're driving, which means that you can keep your hand on the wheel, your eye on the road, and you can just sort of write without looking, because most of us have been writing for our entire lives. Or you just use voice command. Probably the safest way to do it.
A little bit better.
This will be our last comment of the day.
Okay.
And this one comes from Adrian Nell. It's a long one, and I'm going to shorten it down. I'm going to hit just the high points. It says, in theory, EVs should suffer less when the proportion of highway driving is more, because they can very easily be made far more aerodynamically efficient than similar-sized ICEs, because they can have fairings over the wheels because they don't use their brakes as much, and they don't need as much cooling. So aerodynamic efficiency should be better on EVs.
Okay.
There's a long paragraph of a comment where he goes into a lot of information about why he thinks that's so.
Okay.
And I agree with a lot of what he says here.
Sure.
But those are the two main points.
Yeah.
But I think that is if you are taking the Honda Clarity approach to shaping your vehicle, where you put fairings over the wheels and you make your car look like a spaceship.
This does not look like a spaceship. This just looks like an Audi.
And I think that most people don't want to drive a spaceship. No. And so you have that sort of like Toyota Prius, Nissan Leaf sort of approach to aerodynamics, where like everything is just really sort of windswept and low coefficients of drag. But I think when people are looking at cars that they actually want to buy, they're looking at things like interior volume, they're looking at headroom, legroom. So you're in a situation where you're still sort of building around the same size box.
Right.
All right. So that is all of the good questions
we have
this week. Good comments that we have this week.
So everyone, if you would like your comment featured here on this show, all you have to do is leave one. It's really simple, but it has to be a good one. No like insults, no just like one-offs of that's stupid. We want some real actual thought put into these. And you can do that on our YouTube channel, you can do it on our site, theroadshow.com, you can do it on our Instagram, on the Twitters, on the Facebooks. We will be checking all of those for your very intelligent comments.